I was never a stranger to darkness. Growing up in the heart of a decaying city, the streets were my playground and my prison. I still remember the cracked sidewalks and flickering streetlights that illuminated the paths of my childhood. My name is Jack, and I learned to fight long before I ever stepped into a ring. It all started when I was just a kid. My father was a boxer, but not the kind who found glory in the limelight. He was a man who fought for pennies in back alleys, and I was often dragged along to watch. I admired his strength but hated the way he came home, bruised and battered, chasing away the shadows of his losses with another drink. I swore I would never be like him, but the streets had other plans. I had to fend for myself, and when my fists didn't seem to do the trick, I turned to the only thing I knew: fighting. I found solace in the underground scene, where the stakes were high, and the adrenaline pulsed through my veins like a drug. It was raw and real, a place where I could unleash my anger and escape the weight of my reality. Then there was Jill. We were inseparable, two misfits navigating the chaos of our childhood. Jill was fierce, a wildfire wrapped in a package of determination. She had an unyielding spirit, and despite her own turbulent background, she always had my back. We bonded over our shared struggles: abusive parents, foster homes, and the unforgiving streets that never seemed to offer us a way out. I still remember the day Jill discovered her own fighting talent. We were 13, and I had just gotten into a brawl with a group of older kids who thought it was fun to pick on the small and weak. As I struggled, Jill jumped in without a second thought, throwing punches like she'd been training for years. In that moment, she became a force of nature. From that day on, we fought together, training in abandoned warehouses and crumbling basements, honing our skills in the harshest of conditions. Years passed, and we grew into our fighting selves. Jill and I became known in the underground scene as a dynamic duo, two fighters who complemented each other's strengths and covered each other's weaknesses. We entered every unregulated tournament we could find, earning a reputation as fearsome competitors. Each match chipped away at our pasts, allowing us to reclaim pieces of ourselves we thought were lost forever. But even as we climbed the ranks, a gnawing emptiness lingered. We fought for redemption, but it always felt just out of reach. The night we received the invitation to the Subterranean Odyssey, we knew this was our chance to rewrite our stories. The tournament was infamous, whispered about in hushed tones among the underground fighters. It promised not only glory but a path to freedom from the chains of our pasts. "The tournament is invitation only," Jill said, her voice filled with a mix of excitement and apprehension. "It's the real deal, Jack. They say the fighters are ruthless." "Ruthless is exactly what we need to be," I replied, my heart racing at the thought of the opportunity. "We've come this far. We can't turn back now." We set off on a journey through the underbelly of the city, where every street corner seemed to hold a new threat, every shadow a potential enemy. As we navigated the treacherous maze, the stakes grew higher. The tournament location was hidden, accessible only to those who had proven themselves worthy. After days of fighting our way through preliminary matches, we finally arrived at the tournament grounds, an abandoned industrial complex on the outskirts of town. The air was thick with tension, the atmosphere electric. This was a place where fighters became legends, or corpses. The arena was a brutal sight, a circular pit surrounded by roaring spectators, the stench of sweat and blood hanging heavily in the air. Jill and I exchanged determined glances as we stepped into the fray. Each fight felt like a battle for survival, pushing us to our limits and beyond. But as we advanced, it became clear that something sinister lurked beneath the surface. Whispers of the tournament's true purpose began to circulate among the fighters. It wasn't just about proving our skills. It was a selection process for something darker. "The master of the depths," Jill said during one of our breaks, her brow furrowed with concern. "He's been watching us. He has plans for the best fighters." "Plans?" I asked, my gut tightening. "What kind of plans?" "The kind that could ruin us," she replied, her eyes scanning the crowd. "We need to find out what's really going on before it's too late." As the tournament progressed, we fought not only to survive but to unravel the mystery of the Master of the Depths. Each victory brought us closer to the truth, but the closer we got, the more dangerous our situation became. We had attracted unwanted attention, and soon we were no longer just fighting against other competitors. We were fighting against the very forces that sought to control us. In one of the final preliminary matches, I faced off against a hulking brute known as the Beast. He was everything I had fought against growing up, a symbol of brute strength without heart. The fight was brutal, each blow resonating like a thunderclap in my soul, but I couldn't let fear overwhelm me. I fought with everything I had, channeling my pain and rage into every punch. As the crowd roared, I felt a surge of determination. Jill was in my corner, her fierce spirit igniting the fire within me. I had fought for so long, not just for myself but for her too. We were more than just fighters. We were survivors. With a final, decisive blow, I sent the Beast crashing to the ground. As I stood over him, panting and bruised, I caught a glimpse of the crowd. Some cheered, others looked on with cold indifference. But behind the chaos, I spotted a figure cloaked in shadows, observing us with calculating eyes. The Master of the Depths was watching. With the first round of the tournament behind us, Jill and I regrouped. The atmosphere was thick with anticipation and dread. As we prepared for the next round, I knew that we couldn't just fight our opponents. We needed to expose the truth about the tournament. The deeper we delved, the more we uncovered a web of corruption and manipulation. The tournament was a front for an underground empire built on fear and violence, and the Master of the Depths was at its helm, orchestrating everything from the shadows. We weren't just fighting for survival anymore. We were fighting for our very souls. As Jill and I made our plans, I realized that our journey was about more than just redemption. It was a quest for truth and freedom, a fight against the unseen maelstrom threatening to consume us. Together, we would face the chaos head-on, unraveling the secrets of the tournament and challenging the forces that sought to control us. This was our Odyssey, and we wouldn't back down. Not now. Not ever. The roar of the crowd echoed in my ears as I stepped into the arena for the next round of the Subterranean Odyssey. The atmosphere was electric, thick with tension and anticipation. Jill stood beside me, her gaze unwavering, and I could feel her energy, a fiery determination that burned brightly. We had survived the first round, but now the stakes were higher, and the opponents more formidable. "Are you ready?" Jill asked, her voice steady, but I could sense the adrenaline coursing through her veins. "Ready as I'll ever be," I replied, my heart pounding like a war drum. The fighters around us were a mix of seasoned veterans and hungry newcomers, each one with a story to tell, a darkness lurking just beneath the surface. I had learned the hard way that every fighter carried their demons into the ring, and tonight would be no different. The first match was against a fighter known only as Razor. He had a reputation for being ruthless, his strikes as sharp as the name suggested. As we circled each other in the pit, I felt a surge of fear but also a rush of adrenaline. Fear was a familiar companion, but I had learned to dance with it, turning it into fuel for the fight. As the bell rang, Razor lunged at me, and I dodged, narrowly